Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where you'll hear incredibly entitled stories about people who think they can do no wrong just by being themselves. Guys, before we dive in, check this out. So a blind woman was told to get her effing dog off a bus by a passenger who did not believe that guide dogs could be any other color than yellow. Megan Taylor, 22, was on a bus with her guide dog Rowley when the unnamed woman approached her and said, "Why is there an effing dog on the bus? Get it off." But when Megan tried to politely explain that Rowley was an assistance dog, she claims the woman called her a liar because guide dogs are yellow Labradors and your dog is black. Megan said, "I tried to explain to her that guide and assistance dogs can be any color and don't have to be Labradors. She told me I was wrong." That is absolutely ridiculous, my friends, and the comments section had me rolling. This one person says, "You should have told her that they told me he was yellow." And this person says, "You should have told her, ma'am, everything's black to me, so I'm not sure what you're getting at." So all jokes aside, I'm pretty sure they do allow dogs on public transportation, right? So I really don't know what the woman was getting at. And also, I have to be clear, my friends, that I'm laughing at the fact that the woman was being so ridiculous. I'm not making jokes and laughing at a visually impaired person. With that said, my friends, in this episode, you'll hear 3 stories. So the first one, OP fires an entitled waitress. The second story, and the one you're here for, a mom lets her kids run wild. And we'll finish up with a lovely Karen accusing OP of stealing bread. It's bread, guys. I hope you enjoy the stories today, and do hit that subscribe button for future stories, if you're not subscribed. So this happened a couple of years ago, but I randomly was thinking about it and thought you guys might get a kick out of the ridiculousness. I had this employee who was a woman in her late 30s or early 40s, and was your stereotypical mombi. I'm a good deal younger than her at the time. I was like 26 or 27, and right away, it became clear that she had an issue answering to a woman who was much younger than her. Now, she talked back a lot, and made it clear that she felt she knew more than me, and shouldn't have to listen to me when she disagreed. She would frequently bring up the fact that I had no kids and she had 4, to disregard my management abilities, as if it was in any way relevant. Now, here's just a couple of anecdotes of what I had to regularly deal with from her. We had a problem with employees being on their phones excessively, her being one of the worst offenders. I did an employee meeting where I reminded everybody that they weren't allowed to be on their phones at all, and we would be a lot more strict about that moving forward. She interrupted my speech to say, "Well, the problem is, your generation can't handle being off their phones for more than 2 minutes." I pointed out that she was on her phone all the time too, and her reply was, "It's different. When I'm on my phone, I'm looking at things for my kids, not trying to hook up on Tinder with randoms or play Candy Crush." I told her the reason people were on their phones didn't matter, unless it was an actual emergency, and she rolled her eyes. She tried to argue with me about the fact that I would only schedule her during the day and not nights. Nights are more lucrative because customers buy more alcoholic drinks, thus higher tips. I reminded her that when she took the job, she was signing up specifically for day shifts, and most of my waitresses are college students and have class during the day, so there's not any flexibility with their scheduling requirements. She proceeds to yell at me that her desires should trump theirs because she's a mom and she needs more money than them, and slammed my office door shut behind her when I wouldn't cave. The final straw was when I heard from one of the waitresses, who I'm very close to, about how she would talk about how she didn't respect me as a manager and often brought up my lack of desire for kids. She would also apparently say things like, "I'm not gonna take orders from somebody who hasn't even matured past the I don't want kids phase." Between the constant blatant disrespect and the fact that she was barely a passable waitress anyway, I decided to fire her. So, 2 waitresses confronted me, telling me that it was wrong of me to fire her and begged me to give her her job back. They had no defense for her, only she has 4 kids. If she has 4 kids dependent on her, it's on her that she repeatedly treated her boss like a total joke. It's not like I fired her over one incident. There were countless instances of horrid behavior and blatant disregard for authority that she openly and shamelessly stated was rooted in ageism and my maternal status. So yeah, it's a shame that her kids had to suffer for their mom's behavior, but that's her responsibility, and I have no regrets for throwing out the trash. Definitely super duper entitled, my friends, but she'll learn. So at my work, I'm in a supervisory position, and there have been countless times where I've had guys in their 50s or 60s totally disregard my own authority just because I'm like half their age. They usually don't end up lasting long. Not from me firing them or my boss firing them, but the fact that they refuse to take orders from somebody who's half their age. So yeah, some days my work is really, really fun. So this one person's comment says, I had a male employee tell me that I couldn't discipline him because he had 3 kids and a wife to support. I looked at him square in the eye and said, and that's my problem because... He was silent. I then said, yours is a situation of your own making, both with your personal choices and the mess you find yourself in with me. Your problem with me is the one that I can do something about, but your personal problem is something only you can deal with. Yeah, the whole you can't discipline me because I have kids and a wife to support. No sir, that's definitely not how it works in the employment world. So as a parent to a 7-year-old girl, and almost 10-year-old boy, I certainly run into my fair share of entitled parents throughout my decade of momming. The vast majority of parents I've crossed paths with are reasonable. Recently, however, I've run into one of the most ridiculously entitled moms. She will be referred to as Backyard Bitch for the sake of this post. So last spring, I purchased one of those wooden play structures to put in the backyard. I purposely chose one that's geared towards older kids. It has a rock climbing wall, higher swings, a wooden clubhouse accessible by ladder, and a steeper slide leading down from the clubhouse. My kids love it. It's perfect for them. So about 2 weeks ago, I was doing dishes in my kitchen. I looked out the window facing the backyard and saw 2 younger children I didn't know play on the structure. Within 20 seconds of watching, Kid A, who's maybe 2 years old, fell backward directly on her back while attempting to swing on one of the swings. Kid B, who was 4 years old, attempted to go up the ladder but lost his footing and fell through the ladder, so he was trying to pull himself back up. I did not see a parent in sight, so I ran out there. Kid A was crying, likely knocked the wind out of herself. Kid B ended up falling through the ladder. I asked Kid B where his parents were, and he told me they were at home and pointed down the street. He also told me that his mom had sent them up to my home to play on the playset. Now, my backyard is not fenced in, and I live on the corner of a fairly busy street directly across from an elementary school, so the big wooden structure is fairly easy to see. 2 things crossed my mind. 1, I had no idea who the heck these young kids were, and 2, if they were to get hurt playing on a structure clearly much too advanced for them on my property, I did not want to be responsible if they were to break a bone or seriously injure themselves. So being worried and thinking that these 2 possibly got out of their home without their parents' knowledge, I asked the younger boy to point out their home so I can talk to their mom. B grabbed Kid A's hand as she was still wailing and led me from my backyard to the front yard and walked me about 15 houses down the street. When I got to the door, the mom answered while talking on her cell phone, and she says, can I help you? I told her, yeah, your kids made their way to the play structure in my backyard up the street. It's designed for bigger kids, and I don't feel comfortable having them in my backyard, unattended. She says, oh, well, I told them they can play in it. It's fine. They have my permission. I told her, yeah, but they don't have my permission. Your daughter especially is too small, and I saw her fall backwards from a swing that's higher set for my 10-year-old. And she replies, are you calling my kids inept and incapable? I told her, no, I'm asking you to please let them know not to come to my backyard anymore. I'm afraid they'll get hurt. So at this point, the woman hurries the kids into her house and slams the door in my face. Whatever. Over the next 2 weeks, the kids have come into my backyard unattended 5 more times. I have my own 2 kids on the lookout, and every time they come into the yard, they let me know. Each time, the oldest one told me that his mother sent them to my backyard because, quote, it's the neighborhood's swing set. So each time, I've walked them back down to their home, and each time, the mom has become increasingly angry, calling me a stupid neighbor and an uncaring piece of crap, among other gems. Twice she's called me these names in front of my own children. This morning, Saturday, at 7 a.m., I was awoken with a loud scream in the backyard. I looked out the window and Kid B is screaming and stomping his foot in my grass. I put on some slippers and head outside to see what was going on. This kid woke up my own kids as well as my neighbors, all of which came outside to the windows to see what the heck was going on. I told the kid he had to go home now. I walked him to the sidewalk a bit and watched him walk back into his home. I turned around to head back into my place, and then it happened. The mom, in a robe and barefoot, is out of her door making a beeline towards me. She's literally running and screaming bloody murder. She starts yelling, "You effing bitch! You planted dog crap in your yard to keep my kid away? Are you serious?" I'm totally bewildered and caught off guard. I didn't even have my phone with me to call the police if this crazy lady decided to attack me. I tried speeding up my pace and ignoring her, but this lady turned into a shoeless Usain Bolt and caught up with me. She actually got right in front of my path to my place and says, "Hey, how dare you do that to a 4-year-old? Planting dog crap. I know you don't even have a dog." I explained to her rather calmly that my backyard is private property and that I asked her children to stay out of it repeatedly. I told her the next time she pawned her unattended kids to someone else's yard that I would call the police to escort the kids home. This caused her to blow her top. And she says, "Police? Police? Ha! If you don't give me $60 to replace the shoes that you've ruined with your dog crap, I'm calling my lawyer. It's unsafe playing conditions." I stepped around her to get past where she was blocking my way, and at this point, a neighbor came outside of his porch to see what the loud commotion was about on Saturday morning. She sees this, looks somewhat embarrassed, surprisingly, and loudly tells me once more that she's gonna sue me before turning towards her house and walking back down the street. This woman has let her very young kids walk 15 houses up the road alone multiple times, yet she's gonna scream unsafe because her kid squished dog crap. I just can't get over the entitlement. I can't imagine blatantly ignoring pleas not to tell her children to come into my yard. I can't imagine not caring about my kids' safety that much, and I've purchased a camera for my backyard. We'll be installing it this week. So yeah, OP definitely should have gotten the police involved. Who in their right minds would let a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old walk down the street to a random person's backyard and play unattended? Just the thought of those two walking around without an adult to supervise them makes me really, really uncomfortable, guys. Now, I don't want to judge and point fingers here and say that the mom is a bad parent, but my goodness, she's a bad parent. You shouldn't be letting a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old wander the streets alone. Honestly, if those kids were to be taken, it's better to have CPS take them than kidnappers. It's unfreaking believable, my friends. Okay, so this just happened, and it may be the most cliched Karen encounter I've ever had. So my flatmate has sensory issues, and thus strict preferences when it comes to food. Now, I do our grocery shopping each week, and always get him these same name damper bread rolls with no seeds. They are the softest bread available, and it's not unusual for me to get the last one on a shelf on a Friday, which happened to be today. I should also add that my genetic disorder, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, means that my skin does not age normally. So while I'm turning 32 this year, I'm often mistaken for anywhere between 17 to 25 years old, depending on the situation and how I'm dressed. Not even half a minute after I'd put the bread rolls in my trolley, I heard a woman behind me doing that inhaling through her teeth sound, followed by an ah. I turned around and was greeted by the sight of a super stereotypical Karen in every sense, except for her hair. She had the 2 sizes too small yoga pants on, and a workout top with at least 3 inches of wrinkled cleavage bursting out of it, and way too much gold jewelry. She was also wearing sunnies inside the supermarket. With that simpering, wincing expression on her orange face, she said, "I'm so sorry about that, love, but I'm gonna have to ask you to give me that bread." I couldn't fight the instinct and immediately burst out laughing. The whole scenario was just too much for me. Karen, with her hand on her hip, said, "What the hell's so bloody funny?" I told her, "Well, you must be joking, right?" And she replied, "There's no need to be so bloody rude. Give me that bread now, or I'll be having a word with your parents." Me, bristling at being spoken down to yet again, says, "You're not having my bread. Leave me the hell alone." And I walked away. I heard huffing behind me, but I just ignored it and carried on with my shopping. I thought that was it, but of course, Karen needed to try to put me in my place, as I'm sure she'd have said it. She showed up several aisles later with a member of staff. But here's the thing, I'm a disabled woman who shops for the same exact things on the same days every week, so I've had to ask staff for help on plenty of occasions. Many of the staff at the supermarket know me fairly well, so when Karen showed up with Janelle, pointing aggressively at me, she was probably quite surprised when Janelle said, "Oh, hi OP, you're a bit later than usual today, aren't you? Everything okay?" Karen interjects, says, "That's the thieving brat who stole that bread out of my trolley and refused to give it back." Janelle, side-eyeing Karen, says, "Is that what really happened, OP?" I told her, "Actually, I just literally got it off the shelf first, and Karen here demanded that I give it to her, and I guess she did not know how to handle being told no." So Karen of course says that I'm lying, and I said, how about we just review the security footage and clear this up so we can get on with our days? Karen responds, excuse me? Are you calling me a liar? I've never been so offended in all my life. I will not have my character assassinated by a checkout chick. And yeah, she genuinely said checkout chick. Janelle, with a frustrated sigh, said, OP, just carry on with your shopping. I've got this from here. I told her thanks, hun, good luck. And I went to leave, knowing that hanging around would have definitely further inflamed the situation. Janelle says to Karen, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Karen started mouthing off, but I don't know exactly what she said. It included something about my parents and getting Janelle fired, but I was out of there fairly quickly. I did not see Karen again after that, and I don't know whether she left on her own accord, but I didn't see any huge commotion, so I'm guessing she eventually did. What an absolutely absurd creature. Guys, leave it up to a Karen to pretend you stole something from her cart. Guys, I've never worked at a supermarket, but I'm sure stuff like this happens on a daily. I'm almost 100% certain. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, we made it. If you enjoyed the stories today, do leave a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And if you missed the last episode of our /entitled people, a Karen reports an ambulance for doing its job. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.